questions to keep myself aligned. Waste away the hours doing what I should.
Hi, welcome to this episode of Reflections. I'm here with my co-host Kelly Bentley, and I'm Aisha Hogan. And we're also here with our guests Ian Wybrow and Eleanor Vandenberg. And we're here today to talk about what the F is glutathione. And in this case, I don't even have a lot of input because I don't even really understand fully what glutathione is.
Okay, well, you want me to start?
Yes, please.
Glutathione. Well, I mean, technically glutathione is a tripeptide. It's a molecule that every cell in your body manufactures to keep you healthy.
Okay.
Basically, an important part of your immune system. And I like to say it's the scrub brush that cleans your cells, the handyman that repairs your cells, the bulldozer that removes toxins and sludge from your body, fire extinguisher that puts out the flames of disease, and the maestro of the symphony that is your immune system.
So it's a busy guy, this glutathione.
Yeah, it's a
He
very
is the
busy
master.
guy.
The
He is
multitasker.
master antioxidant that we have naturally in our bodies.
So we all have it.
We all have it. If we're born healthy, we have an abundance of it. And as we age, when we get to about that 20, it starts depleting. And we lose about 10 to 15% every decade after that. So that's why when people hit anywhere from, let's say, that 40 to 60 year range, stuff starts happening. Aches and pains, chronic diseases, anything like that will start to happen within their bodies.
And that's when you say, what the F?
What the F?
is going on?
Yeah.
One thing I've always disliked in this practice is when I hear people say, "Oh, that's just what happens when you get old." Oh, I have this, but it's because I'm getting old.
Yeah.
It's an
No.
exciting.
No, absolutely. There are ways to not have, I just got this because I'm old.
Yeah.
You know, doctors say that, and doctors are great. They have their place. Oh, well, that's happening because, you know, you're 60 or you're 70 or you're 50 or whatever it is. But it
And you're
doesn't
supposed to
have
just
be
accept
that.
it.
Yeah.
And I don't want to accept it.
No.
I mean, we learned about glutathione, about 10 years ago, 10, 11 years ago, and researched it. He's the science geek and researched it. And when I started seriously increasing my glutathione levels 2 years ago, I was able to walk up the 14 stairs that I was having trouble with. I can do it now. I can do 576 stairs and then go walk.
Yeah.
Because you're this age was kicking in, isn't there anymore.
So does it help with chronic illnesses like Parkinson's or cancer or anything, diabetes, anything like that?
Well, glutathione is involved, I mean, when you think about it, if you look at, from a scientific point of view, what causes most diseases, it's cellular inflammation and oxidative stress. And that is a couple of the prime functions of glutathione is to repair cellular inflammation and oxidative stress. Oxidative stress is like a can getting rusty out in the rain, and you've just gone out and you just buffed it all up and made it shiny again.
Okay.
That's what glutathione is doing. It's making your cells nice and shiny again, protecting the DNA so they reproduce properly. So when that happens, you start to basically lose the symptoms of those diseases. I mean, there is, if you have the propensity to have a disease, you're not going to cure it.
I think
It's not a cure.
I think once it's actually fully manifested a disease, you can probably maybe put it into remission, but to totally get rid of it,
It can be possible.
It's possible.
It depends
but-
on the
It's
depends on the
possible,
disease.
but it does depend.
Some
but,
diseases
yeah.
will stop in their tracks because the damage is done, and it's damage that's almost irreparable. Other diseases, it's almost like flipping a switch, and within months it just goes away.
Right.
But as soon as you stop increasing your glutathione again, it comes back because your body has a propensity to have that, or whatever's in your body that's causing it is there. But it's that lack of glutathione, that protection mechanism that's allowing it to come out. As I say, when we know the people who have raised glutathione in Parkinson's, it's amazing what happens. With fibromyalgia, it's amazing what happens. With some other diseases, you just kind of go, oh, it stopped progressing. In other words, it just stopped. And like glutathione cleans up free radicals. Well, what kind of things do free radicals cause? All kinds of nasty things. It gets rid of toxins in your
I don't
blood.
even think what people know what free radicals
I
are.
was just going to say we should boop.
Yeah,
let's just
stop
tell
right
everybody
there
what a
for
free
second. And what is a free
I
radical?
kind of toss that out there because just like antioxidants, 10 years ago, nobody knew what any of that stuff was. And
Right.
now most people, I think, know what antioxidants are, at least to the point of they're good things. You have lots of antioxidants in your body, they're going around repairing everything that's going on in your body. Free radicals are the things that are going around damaging your body. And in fact, a lot of antioxidants become free radicals after they've done their job. One of glutathione's jobs is to get rid of them now, because they've done their job, now they need to be flushed out because they've become damaged in the process of doing their
So they're
job.
clearing the clutter as well,
Yeah, you're
which is
clearing out
very
the
good.
clutter. So,
So do you
Get
think
rid
that
of
they
it.
would help with anything like Alzheimer's?
I believe that, yes, it would. It would not, like Ian said earlier, it doesn't necessarily reverse, but it will slow it down and or stop it in the tracks.
and the problem
Yeah.
with Alzheimer's is that one of the results of having Alzheimer's is that your body is building up plaque in your brain. And if glutathione had the ability to remove that plaque, it would probably be a very long, slow process, because plaque is like garbage that's just been dumped in places that it's not supposed to be, right?
Right.
So yes, because the process of having Alzheimer's can be stopped in its tracks, it just means that you're not going to get worse, but you probably won't get better.
So if you caught it at the beginning,
If you caught it at the beginning,
beginning
that would be the
stages.
ideal. As soon as you know that it's happening, stop it.
Yeah.
So
it
you
doesn't
raise your
progress,
glutathione.
just
And
raise
there's
that
numbers
glutathione.
of ways to raise glutathione. I mean, you know that we're in a business where we sell a supplement that does that. But there are other natural and alternative ways to do that. Like for example, there's a lot of foods that are high in cysteine. Cysteine is one of the precursors to making glutathione that your body needs. So if you eat foods that are high in cysteine, then you will produce more glutathione.
foods like what?
Well, most green vegetables seem to be fairly high in cysteine, but I don't have the complete list because it's not something I do, because
Right.
I don't really love my greens, so I don't care. But
I'll eat asparagus.
there are, for example, like there's one thing called what is it? The French something. I can't even remember the full name of it, but it's to do with the fact that French people eat lots of fat, and therefore should have a lot of the pulmonary or like the heart-related diseases that a lot of people in America die from, but they don't. Well, when they researched it, that's when you heard about red wine. It's a good thing to take because red wine has resveratrol in it, which is a very powerful antioxidant. So by drinking a relative amount of red wine, you raise that in your body, which protects you against a lot of these diseases. Of course, drinking too much red wine then goes even further and causes damage to your liver and various other
Everything in
things.
moderation.
so-
So what do you think about something like, now you mentioned that you can get it in some foods and stuff. So what about, and the automatic thing that comes to my mind today, because I've been thinking about it lately a lot, is the GMOs. So if you were going to be taking something to raise the cysteine levels in your body, would you be getting this, like, would it even be working? I guess at the end of the
That's-
day, would it even be working because the food has been so modified?
That's a tough thing to know because most of the GMO work has been done to make the various plants less or more resistant to disease, more resistant to the pesticides and things they put on there to kill the various bugs that attack it and things, and to make it look prettier. The thought that we may or may not be destroying the nutritional value, I don't think is number one on the list, because people don't buy food because it's good for them. They buy food because it's pretty or it tastes good.
So unfortunate.
And
It's unfortunate
It is,
because you know
right.
what, at the end of the day, like, I don't know, but I mean, I've been to other parts of the country, as I'm sure some of, like, you guys may have been too. And when I went to, it's the funniest story, is I went to Turkey, because, I'm from Turkey, and I was in the Migros there, which is like our Fortinos, like our big grocery stores here. So I'm sitting in there, my uncle sent me in, and he said, just go inside, pick up the vegetables, I'll wait for you out in the car. So I went in, and I guess he thought I was going to have that I had a language issue, which I didn't, but he thought I did because I was in there for so long. And he came in to see me, and I was in the produce section like this. And he goes, "What are you doing?" I was like, "Do you see the colors in here? Like, can you smell this place? This
Yeah.
is, I could just stay here like a tourist attraction. Like, this is awesome.
Yep.
Everything tasted so good."
That's another thing, buying food to taste good. I have given many people now, enough people, a conventional strawberry, that's terrible, a conventional strawberry and an organic one, you would not believe the flavor difference. It's absolutely insane.
I know you can with chicken and stuff,
Yeah.
for sure.
But of course,
Yeah. But you think, like, just touching on strawberries, we want strawberries in January. Well, that's not its season.
That's
So
true.
And that's just it. Like in those
and
other
how much
countries, you only get it
nutrients
when
are
it's in
there?
season.
and that's the
Exactly.
problem. So it's, in order to have it off season, you have to have a plant that, number one, matures the right way, or it's been shipped, which means it's been green harvested, and it's got to have a longer shelf life, which means it's got to be genetically engineered to do that. So that's why all that stuff takes place, right?
And there's like one more step, which I didn't realize, which I think happens to all the food that's coming in from another country. It gets
Irradiated?
X-rayed.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, make sure there's no bugs in the packaging. So all this stuff is not necessarily good for you. Now they're going to allow us to have irradiated meat because it definitely kills certain types of bacteria and various other things that we don't want in there. But the problem is there's a lot of scientists who are saying, well, hang on a second, when you irradiate the meat, you also kill a lot of the nutrition. Plus, we don't know what the long-term effects of having very, very slightly irradiated meat is. Well, yes, it may be a tiny little amount that you can tolerate right now, but if you keep eating it for the rest of your life, and you feed it to your children who are now going to eat it for like 50 or 60 or 70 years, what's it going to do to them?
It's
is it
kind of
build up?
scary.
You don't know.
And this is the stuff
It
that's
is
killing
scary.
down
It
our
is.
glutathione and different things
Yeah.
in our
Yeah.
body.
Yeah.
And everyone says,
That's
well,
right.
I'm going to spend way less on conventional foods. Yeah, but eventually when you have these health issues, how much are you going to be spending?
Yeah, yeah.
It's hard to eat organic, and that the problem with that is too is that number one, everybody's like, why can't everything be okay? Look, I went to Turkey to go. Not every apple was round. Okay, so like not
Yes.
everything looked perfect. Like even our organic fruit here looks
Doesn't
good.
look as pretty
So you know,
as
you're
the-
just like, come on. Like every apple should not look like a perfect apple. Every pear, because they just don't grow that way
Yeah.
normally. So.
Right.
You know, you go there and they'll get a pear that looks all kind of twisted, but that's the way it grew. That particular
Yep.
pear grew like that, right? Because
Yeah.
it is purely organic. It hasn't been modified in any way.
And they're not throwing it away. I mean, basically, you'll find some stores now are actually selling the ugly fruit
I read
and the
about
ugly
that.
vegetables. So you pay less for them because they're ugly, but
Isn't that?
it's like,
But
why
they
are we even
probably
doing that?
they probably taste better because they've been allowed to grow as naturally as possible.
Yeah. So it's a very strange issue. I mean, we talked a little bit there about irradiation. One of the things that glutathione, some of the research that we've seen on raising glutathione is it protects you from radiation.
Wow.
So it's just one of those, it's almost like,
Radiation.
for us, it's a side benefit, but it basically, they've tested it on mice and other animals, and they found that, that if they have suffered from, if they've had radiation or been I don't know how much they bombard them, I don't know what they do exactly, but
I hope
that
not
that raising
very
those with high glutathione levels react substantially less and have less cell damage. So it's a very important thing in your body.
How do you think it affects towards emotions like depression, anxiety? Because that's always my thing. I'm always dealing with people's depression, anxiety,
People
stress.
with a lot of those diseases like depression, I mean, I don't want to say that they can't test so much when they're alive, but people who have died and have suffered from those things, they've done brain autopsies on them. And people with, for example, dementia, Parkinson's, ADHD, depression and all those, they have vastly higher numbers. We're talking like thousands of times the free radicals and toxins in their brains that other people have.
It's,
Well,
yeah, it's
glutathione gets rid of those things.
healthy body, healthy mind.
Yeah.
Unhealthy body, unhealthy mind. And you actually cannot have a healthy mind if your body is not up to par. It's just not
I
possible.
mean, we're not talking right now about a specific product because I've actually taken 2 different glutathione enhancers over my life. And 10 years ago, I suffered from, because we're never supposed to talk about diseases, right, when you talk about a specific product. But glutathione enhancement has done some wonders for me. I suffered from rheumatoid arthritis and depression. And after being on glutathione enhancement for a short period of time, both were gone. So does it work? Yes, it works. And we've seen it work with other people. And you don't attribute that to any specific product or process. You attribute it to the fact that I've raised the glutathione.
Right.
Because that's the body's natural way of fixing all these things. Now, we talked a little bit about other ways of raising glutathione. There's been testing on, and I'm sure you've seen through some of the people we know, the electromagnetic mats. They've
Yes.
been scientifically tested to raise glutathione. They do. Now, obviously, they raise it in a different way. They raise it by affecting how the cells behave as opposed to giving it more nutrition. The
So energy healing.
yeah, so I've kind of like, my mind has kind of stretched that a little bit and said, well, we know a lot of people who do energy healing. We know people who do through various, I won't call it psychology, but through various counseling and stuff, affect the way you think, right, a little bit. And all of those things, when you hear people talk about energy healing in particular, they talk about electromagnetic radiation or electromagnetic energy. Well, the electromagnetic mats have been proven to raise glutathione. Possibly energy healing does the same thing. And you'll also hear those people say, you don't have to know what's wrong, the energy will go where it's needed. Well, that's what glutathione does.
And I wonder if it would work with, my mind is going all over the place, maybe
Yeah.
that whole brain diarrhea. So I'm just like, I'm thinking now about, even manifestation. Can
Yeah.
you make the subconscious mind create the glutathione that it's starting to not make as much of?
Probably.
I believe so.
Yeah.
I really, really do. Just from different various studies that I've read and watched and looked into on how the mind neurologically can affect the cellular structure and what's going on in the body.
I mean, I'm sure it's not your mind going, oh, I'm going to make more glutathione now. It's your mind going, okay, you need to start the immune system functioning. And how does it do that? Well, that's not the mind's it's not required that the mind know. It just tells the body, start fixing things. And what does the body do? It creates glutathione, among other things, and starts drifting around in the body and go, oh, okay, there's something that I need to fix.
Right.
And it fixes it.
Because I have heard, like even I know when I was taking my master's, one of the things that we talked about was you could actually change DNA structure through hypnosis
Yeah.
in the body. So I mean, it's amazing the things that the body can do if you know exactly what you're doing and how to do that, right?
Well, there are antioxidants that protect, glutathione is, once again, at this stage you're kind of hypothesizing a little bit, but glutathione is thought to protect your DNA. But, which means obviously your cells reproduce properly. When they reproduce properly, you age slower, right?
Right.
Because aging is cells that are not reproducing properly anymore.
I know what that means.
There's also antioxidants. There's other antioxidants that specifically target and protect the telomeres, which are the little tips. You might call them like that little plastic piece on the end of your shoelace stops it from fraying.
Right.
Well, telomeres are like the little plastic piece on the end of
Such
the
a good
DNA stops it from
analogy.
fraying, right?
So good.
But the telomeres, like your shoelaces, those things get worn down over time. So if you protect them, then your DNA never gets to unravel, and basically it stays intact. So
Nice.
it's
I
all
need
these
new
funny little
shoelace
things that are
covers.
going on in your body that are all basically chemical reactions and little things like that that are giving you that health. They're protecting you and protecting how your body functions. But your body is nothing more than electric signals and chemical reactions, right? So
Our body's amazing.
It's
It's amazing. Like the more and more that I have people on the show, the more and more that I talk to people, the more reading that I do about stuff, and I sit here and go, people just shouldn't accept anything that happens to them. There is
It's true.
no reason to accept
And
things.
sadly, they do. I mean, it's
'Cause it's easier to
somebody
accept.
said to me,
It's
whether a
easier to
doctor-
accept.
Exactly,
And-
and then they become that.
Yep. And because it's not fast. We've come
Right.
to everything as being we want it now.
I decided
Well-
today that I really wanted it yesterday.
yeah.
yeah.
That's how we always seem to
We
think.
basically talk about people need to take back control of their health. It's like doctors have a very important part to play in your health. And that's medical doctors, but also naturopathic doctors and various other types of doctors. And you have to take back control in that you don't just go to your medical doctor and say, he is God, and everything he says to me is 100%
And there's
correct.
so many people that do that.
And it's
There are.
like,
My doctor said I can't do that. My doctor said
Yeah.
I can't do that. My doctor said I can't do that. And it's like, okay, well, why? Why is he saying you can't do that? Like you
Possibly-
said, you have to take.
Yeah.
We as a society really have to take control of our lives.
And the
Our
kid, and
question.
like we've said, even the other shows that we've done in the past where we're talking about, big pharma and conventional and alternative, and you're like, it's difficult for the person in between.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's so
Yeah.
difficult for that patient client to decide
Yeah.
what is right for them.
Especially
Because
if
the
they're-
messages are like, this could really work because this worked for blah, blah, this person, that person, if they came to someone like me or like you.
Yeah.
And then, but my doctor said, I've got to take all these medications.
Yeah.
And the biggest problem that the doctors have is their hands are tied by their college. I mean, if it's not part of their official training, they can't talk about it.
So much
They
red tape.
just simply are not allowed to talk about it. And to me, that's wrong. To me, it should, there should be some leeway to say, okay, I don't understand how these other things work, but some people have had success for them. Maybe you should look at that because there's nothing we can do for you. And that's all it required. It's just a matter of just give that little blessing to say, we can't help you anymore. Check out these other, modalities and see if one of them will work for you.
And I mean, at the end of the day, I think the most maddening part about it is, isn't it for that person's highest and best good?
Yes.
Or is it for some company to make money?
Yeah.
Who are we taking care of here? I just don't get
Yeah.
it. Like, to me, it's just like, aren't we supposed to be looking after them?
Right.
Making sure that their glutathione levels are right, making sure that, they're not depressed, that we're not just giving them medications for everything. How many medications are they taking? Some people go to more than one doctor.
Oh yeah, and then there's this one for the symptom of that one for the symptom
And
of
they're
that
getting
one.
all kinds of different stuff from different
And there
that-
does
in your
come a
life.
point
That's where the
you
safest
can't
thing
get
to
out of
do
the
is to
loop.
have one pharmacist, because
Yes.
the pharmacist will tell you if that doctor's medication will interact with the other.
That's true.
Yeah.
I had that conversation yesterday when I was talking about a medication with somebody, and I said, speak to your pharmacist.
Yes.
They will
Definitely.
have the correct
Yeah.
information.
Well, I know there have been people that have, got a new prescription and they're already on 5 other things, and they've gone into the pharmacy, and luckily the same one, and the pharmacist is going like, wait a minute, you can't take this with that. Like, this is serious.
Yeah.
And the thing is doctors sometimes are overworked. There are a lot of patients and whatnot. The same doctor wrote both prescriptions. Shouldn't he know that they don't work together?
Right.
Yeah. But I mean, his.
Or say, don't take this one while you're taking this one.
Yeah, it's difficult, but as I say, one of the biggest problems is the fact that doctors simply aren't allowed to talk about supplements. They're not supposed to talk about nutrition. They're not supposed, because those things officially don't work. They've not been trained in that, so how can they give advice on it, right? It's not part of their training.
That's true. Out of the 7 years of post-secondary education they have about 4 to 6 hours of nutrition training.
Yeah.
That's, at least they
And
have
and that-
some, but that's horrifying because we're building our body with everything that we put in our mouth.
And basically, shouldn't nutrition be the number one step? Let's try nutrition
Primary.
before we try all these pharmaceutical products.
Yeah.
It's frightening.
It's so scary.
It's frightening. And I think about like the kids now that have all of the allergies. Like we've talked about this too, or the kids are so allergic to so many things now.
Yeah.
And when I went to school, there was no allergy.
Yeah, there was like one in maybe like 1,000 kids,
Yeah.
if not more, that had that peanut allergy.
And I'm starting to feel like this generation of kids is like the guinea pigs, so that they're building up their immunities so that their kids will be okay.
It's hard to say.
You know what I'm saying?
It makes
Because-
sense. It makes
But
sense.
we've seen research on cats with nutrition, where the first generation of healthy cats put on bad nutrition produced unhealthy kittens. That, when put on good nutrition, became healthy. The second generation of cats, when bred as malnourished, produced kittens that they couldn't fix with good nutrition.
And I read it might be the exact same study.
So the human race is just going to get weaker?
Well,
Yeah.
in the
Potentially.
cat study, they actually ended up going extinct. They went extinct.
Yeah.
And it took, I think, 4 years is what I read. It's insane.
Yeah.
I mean, for cats, obviously, there's
So the generations
mass-
were getting, because they were all malnourished when they bred, they became weaker and weaker and weaker. Eventually, you couldn't fix them with good nutrition.
So it's
Eventually, they
they'll
wouldn't
be all
breed
pills
anymore.
after
They
that.
were
Or be
just-
living on those. That'll be
Yeah,
like
yeah.
those future shows that we see where it's like, oh, you want a steak? Here's this pill.
Oh my goodness! Can you
Add
imagine
water.
not
Or those
tasting
replicators
the
that
delicious?
come in like in Star Trek or something.
Okay. I wish we could talk about this forever and ever and ever, but unfortunately we can't. So sad.
She ruins every party.
Yeah.
But thank you so much, Ian and Eleanor, and that was a lot of fun. Please tune in next time. You can catch us on www.thechakrahouseofhealing.com. We're on YouTube. Subscribe. We're on Vimeo. We're on the 365 TV network. If you have any ideas that you'd like to hear about or any show topics that you can think of, please write to us. We would love to hear from you. And yeah, just call us. Thanks. Have an awesome day.
Look at my reflection in the mirror. I see that it's not the person who lives inside of me. Done with all the fear and doubts, the negativity. I'm shedding all the crap right now. I'm